What's going on, everybody? You see a Jaguar back here with GenJag.com, and it is July right now, and a lot of people call this the dead period of the NFL. However, it is not the dead period of this channel because we are going to be pumping out a bunch of position preview videos from now up until the training camp period. And I put out a poll on Twitter on what position group you guys want me to go over first on the offense. I got a whopping 60 votes, and over half of you guys wanted me to do the wide receiving group. So that's what we're going to do in this video. And the wide receiver group is very, very intriguing. So let's go ahead and discuss. So let's get it.
Last name ever, first name greatest, like a sprained ankle, boy, ain't nothing to play with.
Now, in the 2.5 decades that the Jaguars have been in the NFL, if there's one position that the Jags have kind of been cursed at, it's honestly been the wide receiving position. For the longest time, the only 2,000-yard receivers we really had were Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell up until 2015 came about, and Allen Hurns and Al Robinson both joined that group. However, they didn't nearly have that production after that, and they're both not even on a team anymore. And really, we spend 4 first-round picks in the Jacksonville Jaguars history at the wide receiver position, and they all turned out to be druggies. We had R.J. Soward, we had Reggie Williams, we had Matt Jones, and we had the legend Justin Blackmon. You know, they weren't all even into marijuana. They were into all kinds of different stuff. And, you know, even the best wide receiver in Jacksonville Jaguars history, Jimmy Smith, dealt with some drug problems later in his career, ultimately kind of ending his career a little bit short. Now, it looks like the Jaguars have a pretty good group of wide receivers, and really the 2 question marks with the Jaguars wide receiving core right now is who exactly is going to be the Jaguars leading receiver, and who is going to be the 6th wide receiver on the team. As of right now, there looks to be 5 locks at the wide receiver position between Donte Moncrief, Marqise Lee, Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook, and the 2nd-round rookie DJ Chark. Now, when I look at the wide receiving group, I feel like it's Donte Moncrief's opportunity to lose, because I think that he is going to be given the most opportunity to be that main receiver. Now, one thing that the Jaguars claim that they're not going to be doing is really having that #1 wide receiver role. It looks like they kind of do more of a committee kind of thing. The offense is a little different than when Greg Olsen was here, where you basically plugged a guy into the X, plugged a guy into a Z position. They like to kind of move guys all around the field. Now, I feel like Donte Moncrief, it's really his best opportunity, if he can stay healthy, that he will be the leading receiver for the Jaguars this year. You know, he's on a 1-year prove-it kind of deal, but I like his body size. I mean, he's like a 6'2" guy. He's big and thick. The Jaguars, I mean, if you look at some of the OTA highlights, there were just so many balls that Blake Bortles was able to connect with to Donte Moncrief. And Blake Bortles likes his bigger receivers. You know, he likes guys that he can throw it up high to, kind of like Al Robinson. And you know, that's one kind of thing he didn't have last year, was really a big athletic wide receiver. Now, Donte Moncrief was pretty good his first 2 years on the Colts, but his last 2 years he struggled mainly due to injury and just playing with a quarterback like Jacoby Brissett. I mean, the Colts were kind of just they were terrible last year, and just watching their games was pretty sad. So they just didn't really have much going on their offensive side. So I think Donte Moncrief, if he can stay healthy, it can be a big year for him. Now, another guy that the Jaguars have that they really like to throw to is Marqise Lee. You know, Blake Bortles and Marqise Lee had developed a good bit of chemistry. Marqise Lee was kind of injured a lot his first couple years, but his last 2 years he was able to stay pretty healthy. He played in 14 games last year. He was the 2nd leading receiver on a team with 702 yards. He had the most receptions on the team. And Marqise Lee, the reason why the coaching staff really likes him is that he is able to block really well. You know, he's not like an Al Robinson where he wants to be able to put up big stats and just that kind of thing. Like, he's a guy that wants to, he's a big team player. He wants to do whatever it takes to really put as many points on the board and put yourself in the win column. You know, he's not out there bitching to the media about how he didn't get enough touches the game. He's just an all-out team player. Now, Marqise Lee's main thing is that he needs to learn how to catch the ball a little better. I believe he led the NFL in drops last season. He had a few very, very crucial drops. I mean, he had one in the Los Angeles Chargers game that Didn't really matter too much because the Jaguars did wind up winning that game. However, he had a drop against the Jets that if he caught it, it could have set us up for a potential Jason Myers game-winning field goal. Who knows how that could have gone, but it would have at least given us a chance to kick a game-winning field goal. And against the Arizona Cardinals game where we had a questionable play call on a third down where we could have ran it and ran some clock, but we decided to give it to Marqise Lee in the flats. He winds up dropping the ball, and we wind up losing that game to Blaine Gabbert, so that wasn't very good. Now, another player that the Jaguars have is Keelan Cole. Now, Keelan Cole was obviously coming off of his rookie year where he was an undrafted guy out of Kentucky Wesleyan. He struggled at the first half of the season after being kind of thrust into a role that he really wasn't ready for just yet. I mean, if you look at the competition between, from Division II or Division III or whatever kind of school he went to into the NFL, it's a tough transition, and really wide receiver is one of the hardest positions to really transition into in the NFL because you're playing against scrub cornerbacks and all of a sudden you're playing against lockdown cornerbacks in the NFL. So he was actually wound up being the leading receiver on the Jaguars as he caught a lot of deep balls, from Blake Bortles. He had 748 yards receiving last year. And Keelan Cole, he's a good dude. He's fast. He's a pretty good route runner. And him and Keenan Cardell had a pretty good relationship. He really coached him up really well. And I'll be interested to see kind of how Keelan Cole progresses, and I really like to put Keelan Cole at that outside position. Now, another wide receiver that the Jaguars have is a former Blitnikoff Award winner, 4th-round pick, Dede Westbrook. He's coming off of his rookie year after spending the first half of the season on the IR, and I expect big things from him this year. I was impressed with just the chemistry that him and Blake Bortles had. And what I would like to do with Dede Westbrook is I'd like to put him at slot. He's a little bit undersized at 6 foot tall. It's not like it's super short, but if you put him at the slot position, let him play a little bit off the ball, I think he has that quick twitch kind of stuff to really be able to break off a guy and just be able to maybe go do a slant route into some traffic, be able to catch it, and just I think he'd be kind of a good matchup when you put him against like either a nickel cornerback or a linebacker, just with his quickness, quick twitch kind of stuff, just get off the ball real quick and not have to really worry about dealing with press coverage. Now, the Jaguars also invested in a wide receiver in the second round of last year's draft and got DJ Chark. Now, DJ Chark has all the measurables to be great. He's like 6'3", he's like over 200 pounds, and he runs like a 4.2 or 4.3 speed, extremely faster wide receiver, and he can block really well. A lot of times wide receivers, they have a hard time kind of transitioning into the league and getting a good amount of playing time for their respective teams in their first year. But the best way for DJ Chark to find his way on the field is if he's able to block really well, because obviously the offense's identity is through Leonard Fournette and the run game, and that's one reason why Marqise Lee earned another contract, because they like his blocking ability. So I don't expect too much from him in his first year, but I expect in his second year to really be maybe a top receiver on this team, just because, Donte Moncrief is kind of on a rent-a deal, but Donte Moncrief and DJ Chark have a very similar skill set, so I expect Donte Moncrief to kind of play that position for now until DJ Chark eventually transitions into that spot. Now, the 6th wide receiver spot is totally up for grabs. The guys that I mentioned before, they all are pretty much locks, but what are they going to do at that 6th position? I think it's really between Rashad Greene and Jaydon Mickens. Everyone was kind of talking about how good of a camp Rashad Greene has had, and the coaches say that he's a very, very good practice player, and he's been really good in the past. But Rashad Greene, he has a problem staying healthy. He's entering his 4th season. He only really has a handful of games, and he only has about 200 yards receiving. I think the winner of the 6th wide receiver spot is going to have to win the punt return position. And when I look at the punt return position, I just feel like Jaydon Mickens has a lot more like versatility. I just think he's a better punt returner. Rashad Greene, he had a couple of pretty decent punt returns. I think he had 2 touchdowns back in 2015. However, I don't want to discredit him too much, but one of them was a really good one against the Tennessee Titans that eventually led us to win the game. But yet another one where against the Colts where he essentially just ran straight. It was a really good coverage by the Jaguars. So Jaydon Mickens, he had a few punt returns last year. He was just really juking out people, really just showing off a lot of his athleticism. And I just think that Jaydon Mickens, I think he's a better option to be our punt returner. And I just don't trust really Rashad Greene too much to be able to win that 6 wide receiver spot. You can be really good in practice, but you got to be able to show it in the games, and you got to be able to stay healthy and stuff like that. And that's what isn't really what Rashad Greene has been able to do. Now, a lot of people are talking about Lazard as a potential guy to make the team. Dave Caldwell, he's been able to find a lot of undrafted gems, just like with Allen Hurns, and they also found Keelan Cole last year, so this guy could potentially do it. He's got a big frame. He's like 6'4", 227 pounds. I could see the Jaguars maybe put him on a practice squad, and then maybe even transitioning him to like a tight end position, kind of like how they did with Neil Sterling a few years back, but, we'll kind of see with that. Now, that kind of wraps it up. The Jaguars were kind of very injured at the wide receiving core last year, so I really hope they're able to stay healthy. I hope that they are able to trust the weapons more this year than they did last year. A lot of times down the stretch, a lot of people were saying, the Jaguars don't trust Blake Bortles, but all along I kind of thought it was a lot of that. They also didn't trust the wide receiver core, as they had a lot of young guys in there. A lot of new guys cycling in and out of there, like Max McCaffrey, Jalen Strong, Jaydon Mickens. Yeah, just a lot of people cycling in and out of there, and a lot of people were like running wrong routes and stuff like that. So I hope that this wide receiver core can get it done. We'll see. I don't know if we're gonna have a number 1 wide receiver. It might be like more by committee, but we'll see. But I'm really excited to see kind of what this wide receiving core does this season. So that's my first position preview. Follow me on Twitter so you can vote on the next position preview. And I thank you guys for watching my video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And this is UC at Jaguar with JinJag.com, and I'm signing out.